Okay, so welcome to Satsang. So for today's Satsang, I want to go into a subject that confused me and very much prolonged my seeking and delayed my finding of peace, of that effortless, stable peace. And in some ways it's obvious what I'm going to say, but in other ways it's not so much. And we may find ourselves stuck in a similar place. And kind of my job is to find where people get stuck and try to talk about that and bring it out so that we might realize how to get out of it faster. And it really comes down to the fact that we can experience ourselves as in two modes, basically. We can experience ourselves as a separate being that is trying to get to something, trying to move towards something in a process of becoming. So we do this as human beings. We move towards a particular goal, and we consider ourselves a work in progress, changing and becoming, moving into something. And we eventually even do this with the awakening that we're seeing unfolding. We see it as something, perhaps without realizing, that we're moving towards, that we're becoming closer to that. And perhaps we have this sense that we're moving towards some final destination or some end point in our journeying where we will feel like and be like that awakened self. And we can also experience ourselves as that which already is complete and whole. We can experience ourselves as that quiet background of awareness, silence, stillness, beingness, whatever you want to call it, our permanent, invisible, intangible, unchanging self that we are. And although this may seem obvious, it didn't occur to me for quite a long time. And even once it did, I kept going back anyway and trying, that you can't get to being, to beingness by becoming, that there isn't any journey we can take, any change we can make to ourselves, any kind of progress or becomingness that is going to bring us back to the wholeness that we already are. Of course, that may seem on one level obvious, but most of us do tend to slip back into measuring ourselves up against certain beings or up against where we think we should be in our awakening, and comparing, and set off trying to become again. So I really wanted to look at why we keep trying to get to being through a process of becoming and changing and of evolution, rather than simply coming to rest in that awakened state as much as we've recognized it in this current moment. What is it about this becomingness, this changing ourselves, moving towards something that's so very seductive? Why do we keep getting sucked back into doing things, trying to do things? And these doings might not be so obvious as we progress in our awakening, as we deepen in our seeing. But we might be very, very subtly feeling that we have to do something to ourselves to start to live as this awakened state, to start to live as the sages have done and do. And really, becomingness is a verb, it's a movement, it's something that's always changing, something that's always becoming. something that's always moving. It's always in motion, seeking and becoming. And maybe if we just kind of examine that right now, we can see that how are we ever going to get to something that is already here and still and complete and silent and whole and perfect by movement, by change? How are we going to be the unchanging self by trying to change ourselves into that? How are we going to rest as the perfect, authentic nature that is already here by trying to get rid of something or trying to get a hold of something that we feel we need to have, such as joy or love or something like that, or abundance? So again, it may seem obvious, but it's really worthwhile also, as much as we recognize this, to dig deep down and look at our life, our awakening in this moment. Are we still trying to get somewhere? Even if it is really, really subtly, like I'm trying to be more authentic, which is absolutely impossible to do. The two things are completely opposite. I'm trying to rest as my true nature. I'm trying to stay as the self. I'm trying to release my karmic patterns, all of that. And it really is experiences and emotions and thought patterns in our life that keep us going back to doing something, trying to fix these issues, these patterns that come up. But maybe it's the other way around. Maybe by believing there's something left for us to do or to fix or to move into or to become, we create a whole set of things to fix. Maybe by being a problem solver, we see that there are problems that need fixing and solving immediately. Have you noticed on this path of becoming, of trying to move towards something, you never actually seem to arrive? Have you noticed that? It never worked for me. I never managed to arrive. And from time to time, I would say, okay, now I'm just going to be myself and leave these things to sort themselves out. But over time, my attention got pulled back into trying to fix something. Very, very subtly at first, attention gets pulled back into being a someone who's doing something. And the seductive appeal of almost there, getting closer, getting more awakened, feeling more peaceful. I really, really almost feel like I'm almost at the end of my to-do list now, spiritually. It is so extraordinarily appealing to most of us because that's all we've ever known ourselves to be, as someone or something moving through our journey. But again, if we can come to see that the very movement of becoming means that it is the antithesis of being, actually, it is the paradox, it is the contradiction to just being. And that we find if we settle into just being, that all the things we wanted to fix anyway begin to resolve themselves in a much more effortless way. All the things we wanted to iron out of our personality and all the things we wanted to get into and have and develop seem to begin to occur anyway. All the emotions that we're trying to release start to dissipate anyway. So what does it mean to just be? Can we stop traveling in this moment? Can we stop becoming? Can we stop being a movement? Can we be authentic right now in this moment? Just being as we are right now. Does that mean being a particular way or state? No, it means exactly as we are right now. So recognizing that there is something formless and stable and changeless about us, and also honoring however we are in our body and mind and our life and our emotions right now. Accepting however we're appearing is just being. This is how I am in this moment. This is me. This is my beingness. This is my body. This is my mind. This is the emotions. All of that is as it is. That is beingness. And as we rest like that more and more, then what we want to change about our body, our mind, our experiences, our relationships, our life begins to resolve by itself. All the things we've been trying to fix and all the problems that we've been trying to release or come to an end of begin to resolve without us necessarily getting involved spiritually. Our body may do things, our mind may do things, but we can simply rest as the beingness. So is that hard to do, resting as the beingness? I used to think it was incredibly hard until I really recognized what it was. Is resting as your authentic being, authentic nature, does that mean feeling only peace, love, and joy? Or does it mean being exactly as you are in this moment? Because one of them is perhaps impossible, the other is absolutely possible in this moment. Can you, for a moment, or for a minute with me now, or for the rest of your life if you want to, stop traveling? Can you be as you are right now in this moment, whatever that looks like? Even though it may be something that you would want to change, can you let it be as it is right now? Making this switch from becoming to being. Honoring the fact that you are exactly as you are in this moment, without the sense that you need to change in this moment. Seeing what happens when you do that, what happens to your mind and your body and your emotions, and the reflecting experiences in and as your life when you just allow yourself to be. I'm not just talking about the formless aspect of you, I'm talking about your manifestation to your life. Where is it written that to be as you are right now is difficult? And how long does it take for you to just let yourself be, give yourself permission to be authentic right now? What does authenticity mean to you right now? Because when I really looked this journey of becoming, of saying, I'm not how I should be right now, or I'm not as awakened as I would like to be right now, I'm not where I want to be right now, it wasn't really working out for me that way. And eventually there was more and more determination to just be whatever I am in this moment, however I'm appearing right now, with no attempt to control that or manipulate it. Maybe it's our very seeing that there's something needs changing, something wrong with us, that is perpetuating this never-ending journey, this becomingness that never arrives. How can we find stillness when our deepest assertion inside ourselves is that we need to move further, we need to change more? So can we rest now as we are and release just for a moment any sense that you are not how you're supposed to be in this moment? Release any comparison of yourself and where you think you should be or yourself and another being that perhaps seems to be more awakened or further ahead on the pathway or something. Just releasing all comparisons and starting afresh, just being right now, whatever you are. What does that feel like when you embrace being? Trusting that in the allowance fully of yourself in this moment, that what needs to move and change in your emotions and your mind and your experience is going to be able to do that much, much easier, much more effortlessly when we're not trying to manipulate ourselves or control ourselves or change something. It's going to be able to do that much more easily, all by itself. And maybe that's been the only thing that's been holding back the change that we've been looking for. Maybe it's more intelligent for us now to rest in the beingness, recognizing that peace, contentment, joy arise out of letting yourself be as you are, rather than arriving at some end point where I look like I want myself to look. Which one of those is accessible for you right now? Can you just be what you are? What happens when you don't try to change yourself or anything right now in this present moment that we have together? So the end of becoming is the start of just being. And that beingness will evolve in the mind and body as the mind and body all by itself. And there'll be a sense of doing something, but just a sense of doing something. Instead of your awakening, your life, your relationships, your career, your finances being something you have to do, manage, control, can we just be and allow those to unfold naturally? When we just be with no sense that something should be different in this moment, then naturally the highest thing that's possible to manifest, to have happen, will automatically occur. Which tends to be the thing we wanted anyway. We're just getting it much more effortlessly. We're relaxing into being and allowing the manifestation to move how it wants to move. So it isn't hard to be what you already are. Whatever your finances, your emotions, your career, your love life looks like right now, it's okay to want it to be different moving forward in the next moment. But let's not argue right now with this moment. Acceptance, how we are is how we are in this moment. And that we could not be different in this moment is going to allow those things to come that we've wanted anyway, the resolution of the things we've been trying to fix. So maybe just redefining what it means to be. For me, this was revolutionary. It doesn't mean being my image of a sage, being my perfect image. When I reach that perfect image, I can be that. It means being as I am right now. Absolutely, exactly as I am right now. And there's a relaxation that happens almost immediately when you just let yourself be. What's it like to move through an hour or a day or a week without any sense that you should be different than you are? And where did that idea come from anyway? I'll be happier when this thing has changed or that thing has gone. Is that so actually? Can I be happy now just by not trying to change everything so frantically? And the greatest human experience, for want of a better word, because it isn't an experience, is to be completely comfortable with yourself. Whatever you perceive your character flaws to be and your character strengths to be, what negative emotions you'd like to release, what higher states, peace, love, and joy you would like to experience, all of that is going to move to occur for you, through you, by you, as you honor how you are in this moment. That is the portal to allowing what you want. How can we ever feel how we want to feel when we're in argument with ourselves? I am not how I'm supposed to be right now. I'm not where I want to be right now. I'm not as awakened as I want to be right now. All of that is arguing with ourselves in some quite subtle, sometimes overt way. So you can step out of becoming right now, trusting that as you do, whatever you've been trying to get towards is going to come anyway. Every time we've stopped trying to control some area of our life, it naturally moves into a higher state anyway. A higher manifestation is immediately possible, and we can do that with the entirety of our being. To me, this is the essence of the word being. There's an already isness about it, isn't it? And from that place of being, whatever needs to become will become all by itself. Just moving away from this sense that trying to change yourself is, or your awakening or something is how to get those things that you've wanted. It's an immensely popular idea, but also causes a great deal of pain. And even when I understood that, I still misunderstood what being was. I tried to be as I am and feel peace, love, and joy. And really, the peace, love, and joy comes from being exactly however you are in this moment, whether you feel positive or negative emotions, whether your mind is quiet or chaotic, whether your life is in order or an absolute mess. That there is no way to fix all that permanently through this becomingness. So the invitation then is to step into being. Whatever you are in this moment is whatever you are, and you cannot change it because it's already shown up this way. Moving forward, the manifestation of your mind, your body, your life is going to evolve by itself. And you don't need to manage that. You don't need to coordinate that. So let's just take a moment just to be, to notice how our beingness is. There's some part of us just watching, just being. And then there might be some sense of doing, some thought activity, some emotion, some sensations in the body, maybe trying to understand these words, trying to get the most out of them. Something is becoming and trying. Can you just be that right now that's watching all that happen. And what happens when you stay like this? And you'll find that as you do this, you won't be able to, less and less will you want to, and eventually you won't be able to try to control anything. And the stress and the fear and the suffering that comes from constantly being at war with yourself begins to diminish immediately and will develop into a deep peace and quietness. You are not a work in progress. You are not a DIY or a fix-it-up project. Your body, your mind, your world, your life will always reflect your authenticity in this moment or lack thereof. All we can ever control really is whether we are being or becoming in this moment, what our main affinity is for, what our main allegiance is with. That's really the only choice we ever have right now. Am I allowing myself to be as I am? And as I begin to get a handle on what that means and begin to experience like that, it's more and more natural and easy to let everyone else be as they are also. And then almost magically, everything happens that we wanted to anyway. You find a peace that we've been looking for, the deep contentment, the deep sense of being complete and worthy already, of being whole, of having already always been home rather than arriving home. There is no journey that's going to get you to where you already are. There's no way to move forward and stay in the fullness of your being. It's just not possible. When you're ready to drop the traveling and the journeying, then right as you are, no matter what your life looks like, you can do that. See if it doesn't just change things anyway for you. Okay, so I have a question here that's been sent in, which I will read out. If anyone would like to ask a question or share something, you are more than welcome to put your hand up. We'll see how many questions come. So this one says, "Hi Helen, your satsangs are such a joy and a gift. Thank you so much. My question is about something I heard Rupert Spira say several times, and I heard you also speak about it. Quote, awareness doesn't care or doesn't mind what happens. Something inside me can't understand this. When awareness doesn't mind what happens, who is experiencing this body-mind world? And why does awareness doesn't care or mind what happens? These things feel like awareness is indifferent and careless. Can it be that I'm missing something here? Maybe an English wordplay. Can you please explain the meaning of this saying? Thank you. All my love." So I didn't get this either at first. It was very confusing. They seem to be, it's really exactly what I've been saying this morning. There seem to be a lot of things in my life and my emotions and my world that I cared about, and as a separate being I needed to care about. But awareness doesn't care in the same way that a separate being does. Maybe that's the way to start to unravel this one. That when I function as a separate being. I see a lot of separate beings, separate things to me that I want, and I will deeply, deeply care about those things. And to hear that awareness doesn't really mind what happens, what manifests, it can seem, well, I'm never going to get what I want if I don't care, if I switch to being the awareness, or the being as I've called it today. But really, if we can see, awareness doesn't care in the same way that I do as a separate being, because awareness doesn't see things the same as a separate being does. Awareness sees only itself everywhere. And it sees the unfolding of manifestation in and as our life as a continuous process that cannot be stopped. That it's not seeing a separate being that needs to get somewhere. It's seeing, awareness is looking and seeing only itself. And as such, it doesn't care so much about what we want as a separate being, because it doesn't recognize a separate being. It doesn't recognize also the wants and needs of that separate being. So it kind of doesn't mind what happens in the manifestation, because as the awareness, whatever arises, seems to arise out of awareness, is naturally going to be the highest thing possible in that moment. And it's always going to be getting better each time. So it's more of a relaxing and an allowing of an unfolding of what we want as awareness, rather than trying and struggling and all that caring and stressing and suffering as a separate being. Awareness is not personally involved, because there is no person to be involved. Awareness sees only awareness. It doesn't recognize a separate being that we've dreamed ourselves to be. So it can be challenging to understand at first, but hopefully that's gone some way to explain. And I can't speak for Rupert Spira, but in my own experience, it seemed exactly the wrong thing to do to stop caring, as I was saying earlier, until I actually stopped caring as a separate being, and then I realized it was the right thing. It's not that we're going to stop caring about those that we love in our life or the things that we want. We're just not going to mind whatever shows up, because we know it is the process of getting what we want anyway. So I hope that helps to explain it a little bit, but if not, you can always feel free to ask again. So, okay, so if anyone would like to ask a question or share something, feel free to raise your hand. Or maybe we'll just be Alex, when you're ready.
Hi, Helen. Question that I had for this morning has changed a little bit. See if it can come as it needs to be expressed. I've had a realization while you were speaking that becoming is an object of mind.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of my mind's attention has been on lately, which we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. It's not really a problem. It might as well chew on something useful. But I've been getting fleeting glimpses of something genuinely boundless and spacious that seems quite different from sometimes when I feel that I'm in a state of just being. There is some sense of limit to it. I've got a feeling that it's my mind masquerading as the true self. There's been a teaching and a moment of realization that I am not my body mind. I am consciousness, and mind's gone, got it. I'm consciousness. It's kind of
Tick, done that. Next,
yeah. Mine thinks it's boxed off now because it almost masquerading as the true self because it's trying to become.
yeah. It's always like mine's taking a snapshot of this moment, going, right, that's what the truth is. That's it. I've seen it now. Done. Yeah. It took me a while to realize that wasn't it. That was it right now. But it's always going to be deepening, isn't it? And you kind of, if you notice that tendency, then it's gonna, you can just, every time mind forms an assumption or a conclusion about truth, you can just pat it on the head and go, I'm going to keep, deepening anyway. Thanks very much. But, it's not wrong, is it? Because every time you see something or you have an epiphany or something, it feels complete. It feels total because it is truth. It's going to feel whole and complete. But just to recognize the mind wants to sort of stop there. It's looking to form conclusions, isn't it? It wants to write a book and say, this is what my beingness is. Whereas beingness itself has an infinite capacity to deepen experientially for you as you kind of relax into that.
The sense that mind's protecting itself. It's almost on the defensive. It knows that its time might be up. at least,
yeah.
at least
in the way it used to function. It used to be our only go-to source for information, right? It used to be our own Wikipedia type of thing, and now it's going, hang on a minute, I can't really get a handle on this. It's never going to be, I'm never going to reach an end point where I go, that's what truth is. Now I know, that's it. So it's kind of feeling a little bit out of its depth, in that. But it's okay, isn't it? We've been taught how to function that way, and we're just kind of switching over to a deeper way. Here is what truth is right now for me, experientially, and whatever it is in the next moment, it will be something even better, more amazing. It just, you kind of relax then, don't you, a little bit, like there's no finish point where I get my enlightenment badge and go, now I'm there, that's it. So much to mind's disappointment, there is no finish line in that way. Does that help you?
It does, thank you.
Good. Lovely. Good to talk to you.
You too.
Sarah?
Hello, Helen. It's actually Alan.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, no, I'm on Sarah's computer, so we're both called Sarah. I'm not sure whether it's a languaging thing or I'm missing the essence of what you're sharing. But for me, being, when you say being is not becoming, what I think in my languaging you're saying is that being is not grasping.
Yeah.
But for me, being is becoming, in the sense that what's really useful about that it's like when you said that being is constantly evolving and will happen anyway, then what I'm getting from that is like that sense of, yeah, it's not, there is no static state.
Mm-hmm.
And so the being is constantly becoming, just like the river is constantly becoming something different, just like the clouds are constantly becoming something different. And so that's what I've always kind of, that's how it feels within me. So when I'm listening to you, I'm hitting the curiosity which goes, yeah, but Helen says being is not becoming. And so I replace the word becoming with grasping. I go, yeah, got it. Because there's nothing, I don't get a sense of reaching or anything. I feel like the peace or the spaciousness that is more and more established in me is ever unfolding.
Yeah.
And so are we on the same page, or am I missing?
Absolutely. There's there's it's really where we're standing, isn't it? Am I sure I am the becomingness, or am I the beingness that's just kind of manifestation is happening? Am I the clouds in the sky, or am I the sky in which the clouds are just happening? It's a very different experience in life then, isn't it? And it's the nature of beingness to make these shapes and change and play and all of that. And just to, okay, let me be the beingness now, that there is no shape I can make, combination of shapes that's going to be the ideal one or finished, or like we were just saying before. And I can enjoy that. I can relax more. Yeah, what that means for my life as a human being is it's just going to keep getting better and better, more and more peaceful, better experiences, things I've wanted anyway, as I just sort of more and more identifying with that stillness rather than the movement, just letting the movement happen.
Right. Yeah. This is so. I think it is about this sense of grasping rather than how, because how it feels like in the evolution of the understanding here is that more and more things just fall away rather than there's anything to grasp. So
Yeah.
so there is no outcome. So I think we are on the same page.
Absolutely. Sounds like it. And it's just all the stuff we've been trying to grasp anyway is with the assumption that that's how we get it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
That by frantically trying to grab it all, it's going to come and stay. And it's never worked, or at least it never worked for me ever. Yeah.
Right.
So on the assumption that that's not what's going to happen anyway when I just let go and just be. Yeah. Wonderful. Good to talk to you. Lovely. Okay. Laurie. So we'll take Laurie and we have another Sarah, and then we'll leave it there for today. There we go.
I think I'm unlocked.
Yes,
anyway,
you are. Yeah. How are you doing?
Good, and you?
Yeah, good. You're up early this morning.
Very early, very early. Anyhow, what I want to know is, are these seeming body minds that are showing up on this satsang listening to you? Because that's just what's happening.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
There might be a thought in the mind, oh, I'm going to get on satsang this morning, or I'm going to get out of bed and tune in. It's just what's spontaneously happening. And there's also a sense of doing something. While the body's there, while the mind's there, there's a sense of doing something also, isn't there? So it has to be where we're identified with, I am that, in which it's just all happening spontaneously. And also, while I have a human body, there might be a sense of doing something, planning something, scheduling something. All of that can just happen spontaneously. The planning will just arise spontaneously, all of that. It's kind of both, isn't it, really?
Well, it's just, we had a big discussion in one of the GP programs, and I had a whole bunch of words, and I decided if you just answered that question, it would probably answer the question we were discussing on the GP program. So thank you.
It's the self is always heading right where the separate being wants to go anyway. Of course, the separate being doesn't realize that and tries so hard to get there. So it's just kind of relax and it'll all fall into place. So I hope that helps.
It does.
Good to talk to you.
Yes.
And last but not least is Sarah.
Hi, Helen. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I noticed some change happened to myself. Like, I used to be able to understand, like, I read a lot of like spiritual teachings, and I was pretty much addicted to them. Like, when I read it, I was 100% in sync with that. But these days I find like I find like the mind as a tool, like it fall off track quite frequently. So like it's even more difficult than before for me to understand all these teachings. Like I don't know whether it's like, you know, it has to follow certain logic, follow certain kind of like stories to be able to understand the meaning or what it's discussing here. But it feels like I have to, you know, you need some kind of like efforts there to be able to understand, okay, what is discussing here. I used to be like, you know, I feel like there's no efforts, it's just so much enjoyable, you know, just get lost there. But now when I, you know, it feels good. It feels good even though, you know, you do the effort, you don't do the effort. But I do notice these days when I try to understand all these great teachings, it requires more efforts to.
It's really hard work, isn't it? It's
use
really
the
hard
mind as
work.
a tool. Yeah, I almost feel like the mind has become a bit dumb.
Yeah, it gets lazy. It's like, I don't want to put that effort in anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. It's I'd rather just be and relax more into what I am right now. And that's because you've done that sort of efforting. You're now seeing the rewards of that. This aspect of you that really wants to work hard and try hard and really try to get somewhere is beginning to fall away. But it feels a bit like, oh, I'm not doing any spiritual work. I'm not doing so much spiritual work.
But like I can't even understand it anymore. I used to be able to understand it so well. I can, you know, quote every great teaching, but now it's, yeah, I still feel I still like it.
For a time, as you switch over from becoming to being, for a time, you can either understand the teaching or you can live it. Eventually, you'll be able to do both. But right now, it's just the living of it for you, which is more important, which means, am I happy right now? Well, yes, then, or am I more peaceful today than I was yesterday? Am I less upset by this situation when it happens in my life than I was last time it played out? Then you're starting to live the teachings. And your mind has been trying so hard for so long to try to get all this that it kind of exhausts itself and starts to just let go anyway. And it feels a bit lazy, doesn't it, at first? Like I'm not really exerting any effort anymore. But this is the deepening of what you've been seeing and learning. That more and more you're just relaxing into being it, where you don't have to think about it so much or remember it up here. Can you see the difference?
Yeah, and also like, you know, say you go through life, you still interact with people, but kind of like you just grab information whenever you want, wherever you want, and you see yourself like kind of like putting up like pieces together each time.
Mm-hmm.
There's no really like, it's just every time it's just reappearing. There's no logic, there's no right or wrong, there's no, you kind of like, there's no timeline, just grab the information in each situation. It's kind of like out of time and space. Like every time
Exactly.
you go wherever.
And you're just more and more enjoying, like right now I'm enjoying this moment. I'm not trying to get anything out of it. And I'm experiencing whatever I'm experiencing. And that's enough right now. There's nobody with an agenda trying to get something out of this moment. Less and less is that happening. which is what's happening for you now, less and less. More and more, you're just here and you're just being whatever you are. And it's a different way to live than what we're used to, because we feel like we should be working towards something or striving to get somewhere or proving our worthiness. And we've done that for so long through our spiritual work, you know, and then more and more as that efforting falls away and you're just being, just moving through your day, moving through your whatever experience you're having, and you're not trying to get something out of it all the time, you're just experiencing. And you do tend to lose that tight, constricted feeling of time and space and separation. And you're just being, aren't you, more and more?
It also feel like you're from a different dimension when you try to talk with people, like they're more linear, and whereas you're just, you don't know, you just do things together.
Yeah. You kind of get used to that the beingness that you are can talk to a person in the street who still thinks they're separate just as easily as they can talk like this. You know, it will become easier to just switch between modes, so to speak, that you can still talk as if you were a separate being in time and space, but you know you're not. You know, more and more it's clearer that's not ever been true for me. But it is clear that you're looking from a different perspective than most beings around you. You know, they're kind of very much focused on this idea that they're a separate being and experiencing that idea. More and more you're coming out of it. And sort of, it feels like just being able to see a more bigger picture of reality, doesn't it, than you could before.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it just feel very like out of time and space. It's like every moment you get reborn.
Yes. Because there isn't, you know, as a separate being, I could say, right, I'm driving to this place I've driven before so many times. Every week I go to the supermarket, every day I go take my daughter to school, things I've done so many times before. And it has that mundane, boring, not this again, you know, but as the beingness, it's all happening now and it's all fresh and it's all new. And there isn't a sense of, I've done this thing 100 times before. It feels like the first time when you're doing it, and it's exciting. It's fresh in that way, isn't it? It's not it's not how we normally see these things. You know, just gonna switch off and I'm gonna drive and think about something else because I've driven here to this place before. It's like, wow, this is you're just experiencing the driving and the fullness of that, or whatever you're doing. You know, it's very different to be outside of time and space, to realize that's where you've always been looking from. A different way of experiencing your life, isn't it?
Yeah, and also kind of like when I say interact with people, when they kind of like, I can feel people's emotions and feelings, the kind of stories, expectations, and projections. And I feel like my body, it feels like it's too tired to even to react to that.
Yeah.
Like I can feel the projection, but I'm too tired, like there's no reaction.
It takes too much effort to be a separate being after a while. It's just too much effort to respond as a separate being would, as you used to respond. And more there's just a preference for that effortless way of being, and you recognize that whatever they're trying to project onto you, it is actually nothing to do with you. It's what they think that is going on in their mind, how they see you, or how they see a particular situation. Quite often has absolutely nothing to do with how you really are. It's just what they're thinking about in that moment, isn't it? So there's no need to defend yourself against that in a way. It's just, while everyone else thinks they're separate beings, they're going to be projecting things onto others. That's what we do when we're, and it takes an enormous amount of energy to be a separate being. And we've been doing it for so long, we haven't noticed how much. And as we start to as we step out of that more and more just being, it's kind of like, that's a lot of hard work really, to really think about something or analyze it, or, you know, to react in my old way. It seems like a lot of effort. Yeah, so now I could probably do that if I really had to, but it would really feel like, oh, that's really hard work. You know, it's just, why would you want to? Much more fun to just be, isn't it?
It's, yeah, like for me, it's more like I noted my own change. I still have my memory of my past.
Yeah.
And then I see the difference. And the difference has nothing, it's like natural and naturally happen, and now it's like it's just not responding anymore.
Yeah.
It's not or reacting like what it used to do. Like you can see it.
Yeah. The beingness doesn't have any buttons to push. You know, nobody's going to be able to insult you or upset you less and less, or offend you, or any of those things that happen quite often as a separate being. It's just there's no guardedness or defendedness there. It's just open and much freer, and you can't really take anything personally from that place. It's much more relaxed and open.
And also like my when I was little, my biggest fear was like existential anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Like I learned history, like the world exists, and then I was born, and then one day I would die.
It's terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, that presumption just could not convince me as a child since I was little. But then now it's like I got it, that we as consciousness, we exist, everything gets like being burst out of that. Now it's just become very inclusive, and it really like free myself from all these kind of existential anxiety.
Yeah.
But that presumption was more like we based upon we as the body we were born in some year, and then we die in some other year. But that's not the order of how the world and us.
Yeah, it's such a relief to that existential fear of my existence coming to an end was just always there for me. I didn't realize what it was, but it was always there. When it drops away, it's like, oh, this life's so much. The body will go at some point, but it won't affect me at all. I'll still be here, and it's just it's much more peaceful, isn't it? Free. So lovely. It's lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll leave it there for today. Thank you for all your wonderful questions. Namaste.